as it
You
arrives.
heard it here first. We got permission to wear our rabies shirts.
Here's our microphones now.
Hey, do you like the new setup?
Playing David the dog trainer. We're too cool for mic stands now, guys.
Yeah.
Well, he stole our idea, so let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he went live on Instagram and he live streamed the whole thing.
Where'd you get that idea?
When I saw he was live, I instantly joined and I commented, "What's up, losers?"
Yeah. I wanted to join.
And I hope you took that personally.
I hope it hurt your feelings.
Oh man. Do we have anything we want to talk about, Bridget?
Do we have any interesting comments? Do we have any questions?
Oh yeah, were there questions we didn't get to from that one day? Or not really?
We went over them.
We went over all of them? We didn't do the rapid fire opinions on those trainers. That list. I don't think so. Wasn't Victoria Stillwell mentioned? We can talk about her.
Victoria Stillwell, the actress.
Yeah. What's interesting, guys, is that before Victoria Stillwell became a dog trainer on that TV show, she was just an actress. She wasn't a dog trainer. What happened was Cesar Millan's show was skyrocketing.
Yeah.
Everyone loved the Dog Whisperer. And Animal Planet was like, we need to capitalize on this dog training craze. We need another dog training show.
The woman.
So Victoria Stillwell just happened to fill the role. She's not even a dog trainer.
She got a casting call and was like, this is perfect.
Yeah. And then there was one training company. I think the episode was a Presa Canario. That was like very dangerous. And a training company finally broke an NDA and came out and said, hey, guess what? This is bullshit.
Yeah.
She travels around. She pays balanced trainers to train these dogs behind the scenes, makes them sign an NDA, and then she takes credit for it and says that it was all force-free, positive-only training.
True.
Crazy. How harmful.
Yeah.
To
It really
claim that a
is.
Presa Canario who's like people and dog aggressive can be trained with cookies.
Yeah. It's absolutely insanity. And there's a lot of evidence too.
Yeah.
Like, out there if you actually look at it. There's
Yeah,
a
I'm
ton
not
of
just
evidence.
making this up. If you go out there, you can find all of it.
The clip that comes to mind is the tray of cupcakes that I'm talking about, where she's like, watch, she's not even gonna look at the cupcakes, and the dog's like,
Have you seen the clip of the dog that resource guards?
no.
Where it chases her out of the house?
No.
And she goes, close the door. You haven't seen it. She has a bone. And it's this dog with these two women that resource guards. And so she like goes to give the dog a bone. And she's trying to do the like trading technique. I could talk about the trade. We should
trading
talk about resource guarding and all the do's and don'ts of it today. This will be our intro.
Yeah.
She gives him the bone, and he immediately like takes the bone, and you can just see the switch where then he drops the bone and he just goes after her, and he chases her out of the house onto the porch, and she's like this up against the banister, and she's like, close the door, close the door, close the door. It was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. Very embarrassing.
Yeah. There's like, I don't know, a lot of these like force-free people think that like that's a great technique, is just to trade.
Yeah.
And throw a bunch of cookies on the ground. And
Yep.
I don't want to positively reinforce my dog picking things up. It's just silly.
It is silly.
We had a very bad resource guarding dog a couple months ago. Probably one of the most severe cases I've seen in a while. And long story short, the dog moved on, went somewhere else. Not because of anything that we did personally. But the shelter had decided to try force-free training with him. And then this people's post about him was like, I'm just a little baby, and sometimes I get really scared when you take my food. And a good method to use is to put more food in my bowl. And I'm like,
What if you need to take it?
Yeah.
Then what?
What if he has something that's dangerous? Mm-hmm. And what if he has something that's not going to stop
No.
at just the food?
No.
And they were like, it's working great to go buy him because everybody's ever taken things from him his whole life. So
That's the biggest fallacy of resource guarding is that it is due to them having to fight for their food growing up and never having anything and people taking things from them nonstop and yada, yada, yada. Resource guarding is a genetic behavior. Very rarely have I seen it be something where it wasn't already happening from a very young age, which means that it was genetic. Either a dog will do it or they won't.
yeah.
And the difference is that it's honestly like, could you create resource guarding in a dog? Yeah, but you really have to do a lot.
Yeah.
You'd really have to know what you're doing and
Like
the ins and
piss them
outs
off.
of it
Yeah.
to create resource guarding. Your dog, if it naturally just has that behavior, there are most certainly things that you will do that will make it exponentially worse. And then there are things you can do that will 100% make it much, much better. But it's never going to be eradicated. You know what I mean?
It's managed. Like, management is the way to deal with it, having a good routine.
Yeah.
But like I said recently, like, resource guarding never goes away. And this man commented, he's like, that's wrong. You can train resource guarding out of any dog. It just means you're not skilled enough to do it.
Okay.
I said, okay.
Okay, Chad. So, and I think a lot of it goes into, if resource guarding is something that you don't want the potential of, Hold'em's eating his entire foot.
Hey, stop it.
If you don't want a resource guarding to be something that there's potential for, you either need to be very specific about what breeds you're going to get. Because I would say it's like, there's very common breeds that it's very commonly found in very specific breeds. So like a lot of Rottweilers, resource guard. A lot of Cane Corsos, resource guard. German Shepherds can resource guard. What are some other ones? Terriers can resource guard at times. So, and then if you are like, okay, well, I just want a golden retriever, a lab, whatever, those dogs, the likelihood they're going to resource guard is very low, but
Not
you
zero.
have to get them from a very reputable breeder then at that point. What I'm getting at is, if there is any intentional breeding into a dog of guarding things, then resource guarding is a possibility.
Yes.
You know,
Like a
livestock
guardian
guardian dogs, things like that. So if you go to your shelter and you see a cute little Great Pyrenees mix puppy and you get it, there is a high chance that that dog will have resource guarding tendencies that you then have to manage and work with for the rest of its life.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind when you're picking out dogs, that those are very real behaviors that you could be stepping into if you pick out a specific one.
And it's like, it is and isn't relationship based.
Yeah.
Like resource guarding. Like, if you have a good structure and relationship and routine with your dog, they know how to respect that. And you can say, like, I'm not taking your bullshit. But it's also not relationship based, where if your dog loves you enough that they'll stop doing that, or they'll trust you, because it's an animal and it's a very inherent, like, biological ingrained trait in them.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have the false, like, information, like, if I just become friends with the dog, this will never happen again.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you're
It's
like-
very much like you said, it's like a respect thing, in the sense that, like, the dog needs to know that you're not going to tolerate them being a dick,
Yeah.
but they also need to know that you respect them enough to teach them and show, like, mutual understanding of, like, I get that this is something inherent in you that you have the drive to do, and I respect it and recognize that, and so I'm going to interact with you in a way that fosters trust rather than creates conflict.
Yeah.
And makes you, you know, nervous to be around me, or more defensive, or things like that. Because, like, the number one thing I've seen is that if anyone's recommending to you to start playing with your dog's food and putting your hands in it and touching them while they're eating and doing all this kind of stuff. And that's how you make sure the dog doesn't have resource guarding. And that's what's always worked for me. They've just gotten very lucky and they've never had a dog who actually resource guards.
Yeah.
Because if you do that and the dog has zero inclination to resource guard in the first place, it's correlation is not causation. Like it's going to look like that was the reason. But really, they wouldn't have been resource guarding anyways, probably. Yeah. But if you have a dog who has that inclination and you do those things, you're fucking up. That's not the way to go about it.
There's like a narrative that balance trainers, like we're all about taking the food and like taking it a bunch and being like, it's mine. And that's what I feel like this rescue thought that we were doing.
Yeah.
Is like we were somehow being mean or depriving the dog of something. And this new place like was giving him extra food and that was going to solve it. And it's not.
Like approaching a dog who resource guards things and being able to give them positive reinforcement when you approach is a technique I use all the time.
Yeah.
The problem is I don't use that to then take away the thing they have. I use that to get the dog to trust that me approaching doesn't always end with me taking something, right? When I walk up to you, I don't want you to stiffen and already get in this mindset of defensiveness when nothing has even happened yet.
Yeah.
I'm just simply approaching you. Yeah. So when I approach you and I drop food or I give you a treat or whatever, and then I walk away, you then start to recognize as the dog, oh, so every time they come up to me, I actually get more.
Yeah.
And they're not constantly taking things away from me. And then conversely, we're teaching how to verbally disengage from something you have.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to have to just rip something out of your mouth.
No.
I shouldn't have to.
Yeah. Like
and I don't ever want to have to take your bowl directly from you. Like I don't want to have to do any of that. I can teach you that when I verbally tell you out or to disengage that you leave and you have to leave. And that's a much more effective way to go about things because there's not a lot of conflict driven there. Like Snoopy, my Chihuahua, for instance, he 100% has the capability. Sorry, we've got a rogue dachshund here.
Come here.
He's been building up to that for a while. Like Snoop definitely has the capability to be a resource guarder, 100%. And my Chihuahua. And the way that I picked up on that from when he was young is that I gave him a chicken foot for the first time one day. And he took it. And then I walked like over where he was with it at the time. And he went like this.
Yeah.
And he just like hit it.
Yeah.
He didn't do anything aggressive, but he hit it. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, okay, all right. We got to make sure that we're on top of this. So then I started doing from a young age what I talked about. I go up, I give you things, and then I walk away. I go up, I give you things, and then I walk away. And he's like, damn, I get a chicken foot. And when she comes over here, she's not going to take my thing, so I don't need to hide it. She's going to give me things. Yeah. That's great. And then, of course, I taught him how to out and drop things when I needed him to. And guess what? Yes, when he would out things that he was allowed to have, he would get an additional reward. Hey, thanks for letting that go. Here's another reward. A good instance, like a example of that was I give my dogs the turkey neck every Thanksgiving, the raw turkey neck. I'll chop it up and give it to him. Delicious. And the first time that I gave a piece of it to Snoop when he was young, I was like, this is going to be big. This is a big deal. So I was prepared. I gave him the turkey neck, but then I also had like pieces of like beef sausage, at hand. And he took they were outside with it because they're not eating that in my home. And Snoop took it and very like primitive and feral of him. He like took it to the back corner of the yard. Yeah. He's eating this thing. His hackles are all the way up. He's living his best life. Like he's in prime feral mode. Yeah. And I tell him out from all the way across the yard. And this little dude drops that thing and comes sprinting at me. And then I gave him that beef sausage and he was like, holy
this is great.
Shit, this is the best day of my life. And then I told him okay, and he ran back and he finished eating it. And I was like, those are the things, and that's how you want to deal with potential resource guarding is one, be prepared.
Yeah.
Don't be an idiot about giving your dog resources and not having any plan on how to set them up for success when managing that. And then on top of that, be super, super intentional about it. You know what I mean? Like put them in situations where you're giving them things and then you're prepared to be able to work them through that stuff.
Yeah. My dogs love eating bones on the couch. And that's like one of my rules is like, you can have your bone, but you cannot come up on my couch and eat it. And Minnow has always had this little resource guarding tinge in him. And he's not dangerous by any means because he is 7 pounds and I could punt him if he tried to attack me. But when I try to like take the bones, he's like the ugliest like transformation that he does. And I'm like, are you talking to me? And he's like, no, I'm sorry. And I was like, you can have your bone, just eat it on the ground. And then we just like lift him off and put him on the ground and he gets his bone. Mm-hmm. No, I'm not fighting him. I'm not wrestling him.
Yeah. You shouldn't have like, you need to follow through on these things.
Yeah.
Like there was, what was it? I saw a clip of this guy that was on, I think, Joe Rogan's podcast that was like circulating. It was just a random clip. Mm-hmm. And I think it was circulating around dog world because he was talking about his Cane Corsos.
Yeah.
And it was like a tough guy moment for him because his Cane Corso went and like grabbed a plastic bag or something and then he tried to take it from the dog and the dog got all growly and stuff and so then he had to like square up with him. Yeah, he had to square up with him, do this whole thing. And it's like, you know, you listen to that and you're like, okay. Like he's really making this a big story. But honestly, at the core of it, he's not wrong. Like if you end up in a situation like that where you are in the middle of conflict with your own dog and they're kind of challenging you on something like that, like you can't just like roll over and be like, uh-oh, what do I do?
Because then they're like, sweet, I can do this every time.
Yeah, and especially with those like you said, with Minnow being 7 pounds, like you obviously feel very confident that like if he were to pop off that like he's not going to do harm to you. Or if he did, you'd be able to very much put a stop to it quickly. When you're dealing with those very large breeds like that could do a lot of damage, you have to
kill you.
You have to be very confident in your ability to square up to that if they needed to.
Yeah.
I saw this one girl make a TikTok about her little tiny Yorkie that she has. And I think she stitched a video of Simba, that pit bull that's like constantly attacking his owners on TikTok for essentially rage bait. Like they just do it on purpose. And she like made her own video and she was like, I will never own a dog that I couldn't kill with my bare hands if I needed to. She's like, there's no way. She said, this is about as big as it's going to get.
Yeah.
Because this is a dog and you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I was like, honestly, not a terrible rule to live by.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's a difficult issue to have, like, especially with those larger breeds. I Googled how to fix resource guarding.
Oh, great.
The AI overview. To fix resource guarding in a dog, you can use positive reinforcement training techniques like teaching your dog to trade items for treats.
Oh my gosh, that's the first recommendation.
Yeah, slowly desensitizing them to the guarded resource by gradually approaching it while offering high-value treats, managing their environment to minimize triggers, and always avoid directly taking their guarded items without offering a replacement.
That's crazy.
Positive reinforcement.
So let's look at this. Let's take the humans out of this. In any video that you've seen where dogs are fighting over resources, are they trading?
No.
Are they using positive reinforcement to establish dominance over a resource?
They're fighting each
They're
other.
fighting. And whoever wins,
Yeah.
wins. And then they don't fuck around with that again.
Dare you say conflict
Yeah.
that they're creating and they like it?
Right. But my point being, they're not using positive reinforcement to establish boundaries. They're asserting dominance and they are very clearly setting boundaries using punishment to get the other dog to respect that this is theirs.
Yeah.
Right? So to say that we can somehow get a dog better with resource guarding without using any aversives or any punishment at any time is insane.
It's inherently aversive to like approach the dog's food, to be standing near the dog's food. All of that is aversive to the dog, which is why they're displaying like guarding techniques.
Ultimately, when it comes down to it, like, they just need to know that, like, if they're going to fuck around, they're going to find out.
Yes.
When it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we're out here punching or beating dogs. That's not what I'm talking about when I say that. I'm saying it in the sense that, like, they recognize there will be consequences if they do certain behaviors. Everyone lives their life like that. I mean, we don't speed because we know if we do, we're going to get a ticket.
Yeah.
We don't rob a bank because we know if we do, there's a high chance we're going to jail. Like, that's how everything
Society
functions.
Works. Yeah. Animals work. It's how the animal kingdom works. We don't like go and trade the police officer. Like, here's like a pack of Reese's.
You're
if
right.
you let me go.
Right. And if you do, what does that make you think of that person in authority? That they're a sucker.
Yeah.
That you can take advantage of them whenever you want. You know what I mean? You don't have respect for that person. If I was able to, like, just trade something to get out of a consequence for a very severe behavior, like, that's insane, right? And with kids, no, your kids shouldn't be scared of you, but they should have a pretty healthy respect of you, you know, and understanding that you are somebody that can create very strong boundaries in their life and structure. And that's what sets them up to be good adults and successful.
And more secure feeling because they know what the line is.
Yes.
And then they can operate within the line so they can choose the good choices and they can have the bad choices. And if they choose the bad choices, there's consequences to those. But all the bad choices are completely avoidable.
Exactly.
They just have to learn how to avoid them. And it takes you teaching, like, your child or your dog exactly like what that looks like. And sometimes you have to make mistakes in order to get there.
Yep. Yeah. So this trading technique, I have a very specific example. Well, I've seen this with honestly a number of dogs, but there's one family I can think of in particular that I worked with. They had a dog that was probably the most severe case of resource guarding I've ever seen. This dog would guard blankets, TV remotes, cups, food,
Anything that it deemed.
phone,
Yeah.
anything. If they were sitting in the living room watching TV and they wanted to get up and leave the room and come back, they had to take everything with them. They had to carry their phone, they had to carry their drink, they had to everything, because if they left something in the living room and came back into the room, the dog would attack them over it.
Yeah.
Extremely severe. And it wasn't even like, oh, I'm going to wait till you try to take it. It was upon sight, I will charge you and attack you. I mean, these people were covered in punctures and bite wounds from this dog. And they had gone through a number of trainers that were doing the trading techniques and this and that. Of course, none of it was working. And they said that the last trainer they were working with that was really pushing this trading technique is when they saw the behaviors escalate so intensely, where the dog would trade, sure, and then it would attack you. So they were having them do, like, you know, the dog displays the aggressive behavior and you throw, you know, the food or something the opposite way. So the dog goes over there and it disengages. Well, yeah, the dog would go over there, eat the things, get the reward, and then come right back over and attack them.
Yeah.
And guess what? Positive punishment fixed it. Fixed it. You know what I mean? Like, of course, like we've been talking about, it's not fixing it, but there had to be some accountability.
Yeah.
Like, this dog had never been just properly corrected for doing these extremely dangerous behaviors. It felt like it could do whatever it wanted in that household.
And generally, like, resource guarding is a combined issue where, like, the dog doesn't respect you in other ways in the house, or you're letting the dog walk all over you in XYZ area. Resource guarding can be very specific, and they can be completely fine in every other area but food.
Yeah.
But there are times where you see, like, it's bleeding over into, like, you're not correcting them for going ballistic at the door. You're letting them jump all over the guests. What control do you have? What, like, level are you training your dog at?
Yep. How do they interact with you even without resources present? Like, are they coming up and demanding attention from you? Are they jumping on you all the time? Are they pawing at you when you're on your phone or doing work? Are they barking at you for things? Like, all of that, I think, correlates generally into a dog that comes in for resource guarding is they tend to have those same behaviors as well.
I have a dog that's a resource guarder, and he's just mentally unstable. And literally, like, I set my camera up and I went inside to see if he'd still perform the guarding behavior when nobody was there. And, like, his tail was wagging and he was, like, growling at his tail, looking at it. And then his foot was moving and he'd growl at his foot. So sometimes it really just is, like, something wrong with them.
Yeah.
And luckily, in my case, my dog, I don't know if it's because of the way that I've raised him or what, he's very passive when it comes to me.
Yeah.
Like, I can step in and be like, that's mine. And he's like, all right.
Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah. Spork is special.
Yes, he is.
He is one that it's like, hey, get back here. The dachshund went rogue again. Where his behaviors are kind of predictably unpredictable, I guess you could say maybe.
Yes, yeah.
But like it would be hard to pinpoint what his motives are behind why he does what he does.
Mental instability.
Yeah.
I want to look up this account on Instagram that I keep sending you things from.
Oh, I can't with her.
Dr. Carrie.
Dr. Carrie.
Or Dr. Karen. What is it?
I think it's Carrie.
Oh.
Why? What did she say about resource guarding? Does she have
She
something?
said something pretty interesting recently.
Wow, Nelson's looking really cute right now.
Nelly. Do you have anything to say to the people?
Nelson, have you ever resource guarded?
He said, I might have.
Probably has guarded you in his lifetime.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. All right. Why can't I find her account?
Did she block you?
I don't know. Oh, wait. Here we go. Carrie B. Yeah, there's all these infographics.
Yeah, like she wants to pretend like she's got so much training knowledge, but yet it's just infographics. There's nothing of her actually working with a dog.
And then they have all these like fancy terms like that. Like, what?
Just because you use big words doesn't mean you know what you're talking about.
Punitive. And it's punishment, undermines trust, neglects empathy, instills fear, targets submission, ignores alternatives, values control, escalate intention. What is that?
I mean, I do value control.
Yeah.
I agree with that one. Because this is an animal.
But this is like so punishment, like fear mongering based. Like,
Oh, yeah. I just think it's funny that like a lot of the arguments that people make about balanced trainers is that we're lying to you, we're trying to sugarcoat,
is like
we're
they're
trying
lying.
to gaslight you, we're doing this.
We want to hurt
And
dogs.
like, but also to the extent where like she's saying that we're using certain terms to avoid telling you that we punish your dog, that we do blah 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 blah. I've never once lied about that.
No.
We're punishing your dog.
Yeah.
We are using punishment. I don't feel ashamed of that. And I don't see anything wrong with it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, and I'm not going to tell you anything different and use fancy words like, oh, we're just redirecting. Oh, we're just getting his attention with the e-collar.
The e-collar doesn't hurt.
Yeah,
Like he likes
that's
it.
the whole reason that you use an e-collar is that it's aversive.
I
just don't think using aversives is wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not lying to you about it.
No. And I don't believe that it instills fear in a dog.
No.
I think it sets a clear boundary.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're doing it where your dog is fearful, then you're doing something incorrectly. And
Again, how do dogs settle disputes over resources?
yeah. One post
Aversives.
says how uncertainty affects autistic people and dogs.
Wait, what? Are we talking about autistic dogs?
Autistic people and dogs.
Interesting.
Why? So you're making a comparison between autism and dogs?
That's very odd. Every time you send me one of her infographics, I die a little bit inside.
Oh, I want to see 9 pitfalls of misusing positive reinforcement. None of that makes sense. Reinforcement versus bribery.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Pull out reinforcement after the desired behavior. Duh.
But what are you doing then to create the desired behavior if you're not using food? Just waiting and hoping? Just sending up a little prayer that your dog does it?
Punishment can work, but only if done perfectly. So you admit it.
So you admit it.
Punishment can work, but only if done perfectly. I do. Immediate, consistent, paired with alternatives, intense enough to stop the behavior, but it's rarely done this way. So Dr. Carey is
Why are you
here.
like she's speaking in hypotheticals nonstop? Consistent and motivating. Those are like the main things I talk to my clients about when we go over the use of punishment.
Yeah.
That for punishment to be effective and fair to the dog, it has to be consistent enough paired with the behaviors that we're trying to eradicate so that the dog can move forward knowing how to avoid getting corrected. Yes, I don't agree with correcting your dog 50% of the time that they jump, because the other 50% of the time you're like, oh, well, I don't really mind it. It's okay.
And then
they were just so happy. I feel bad. Then you're confusing them. Yeah, you either need to fully commit and do it or don't do it at all because it's not fair. And then motivating enough. I talk to my clients about that too, where it has to be a level that truly is motivating to where you see a change in their behavior in the long run. Otherwise, it's pointless.
Yeah. So her 3 things on punishment is it has to happen right after the behavior, 1 to 2 seconds, or the animal won't connect it. Do you know what a marker is? Consistency. Punishment only works if it's every time the behavior happens. Yes.
We say that.
Yeah. Intensity. Punishment must stop the behavior immediately, but without causing fear or harm.
I mean, punishment is. Let's look up the definition of punishment.
And then she goes on to say that too harsh of a correction will cause aggression.
Well, that's false. We all know that's false. Let's see. The infliction or imposition of a penalty as retribution for an offense. Yeah. So something aversive is happening in accordance to a behavior. When you have this is where like the fear and the what other word did she say? Without risk of fear and what?
Let me see. Where did it go? Without risk of fear or causing harm.
I mean, that's where it gets so abstract because again, this is an animal.
Yeah.
Like when we're talking about we're not talking about children. And that's what, when I read the infographics of hers that you sent me, it's like we're really walking a weird line of conflating children and these dogs, because when we're talking to children and we're disciplining kids, like I said earlier, I don't want a kid to be scared of me, but I want them to have a respect about it, right? Yeah. And they should fear consequences. That is a normal, to say that I drive down the road and I don't fear a consequence of breaking a law. Yeah. You know what I mean? That I know is set in place. Yeah. You should fear consequences. That doesn't mean I fear the people enforcing them. Yeah. It just means I fear the consequence of my own behavior. I am in control of that. Yes. So with a dog, they don't have to be scared of me knowing that I would correct them for something, to be scared of the consequence. Yeah.
And that's what makes, I think, a good trainer is that they can set these rules with the dog and the dog's not overly fearful or shut down. Yeah. And then, of course, she goes into emotional fallout, and punishment often causes anxiety and aggression. It doesn't teach what to do, just not what not to do. Yes.
That's exactly that's the whole point of punishment. Yeah. And that's what's so obnoxious is that, again, these people like this that are uneducated, they speak in hypotheticals. They create this balanced trainer caricature in their head that they want to shit on because they assume and they want every balanced trainer to behave like that. Never once have we said that punishment fixes all of your problems. Punishment doesn't teach anything.
Yeah.
Scientifically, everyone knows that. It gets dogs to stop doing things.
Yeah.
And then you teach them things.
Yeah.
Like,
you teach
again,
them-
we're not claiming the opposite here.
like none of these posts, like she's very much targeting, like almost every other post is about balance trainers or she calls them forceful trainers.
Yeah.
And then it's just a lot of recycled material, and that dogs are masking when they're not actually, they're being obedient, but they're masking their feelings. We create an in association with pain.
Again, this masking thing, like, okay, is that the worst thing in the world?
And then like there's a big thing in positive reinforcement where it's like, teach the dog what you'd like them to do instead. Well, I can teach them what I'd like them to do while stopping the behaviors I don't want them to do.
Exactly.
And it's called balance.
Yeah. Like I earlier did a lesson with a big schnoodle, a giant schnoodle.
Schnoodle.
Yeah, he's poodle and giant schnauzer. What a guy. And she's gone to a number of different trainers, done board and trains, whatever. And she's still struggling a lot with reactivity, his behavior in the house, jumping all over people, just no like general respect or manners in this thing. Not an ill intent behind him at all, just a rude dog.
Yeah, he's just doing him.
One of the things last week that we talked about was she'd be sitting on the couch and he climbs up and he literally just stands right over top of her and gets like right up in her face or is straddling her, whatever. Just again, no respect for personal space. And I told her, I was like, I want you to start correcting for that. Tell him no and correct him. You know, you should be able to sit on your couch, or guests should be able to sit on the couch, and he's respectful of that space. If he wants to come up on the couch and lay next to you, that's fine, but he can't come on top of you, right? And then she came back this week and she was like, there's been such a huge improvement with that. She's like, that now I can just tell him to go to his place, and he goes to his place. And I was like, but he's never going to stop the behavior of climbing on top of you. Yeah. If you every single time just redirect him to place. Yeah. Because has it stopped? No. You know what I mean?
There's an opportunity where he tries that specific behavior, and you have to tie the specific behavior with a consequence if you want it to stop.
Exactly.
And make it clear and consistent.
And we discussed too that with her struggles with him, like in the past with everything, that it seems to be all kind of tied back to that same philosophy of like micromanaging. Every time the dog does something, just tell them to do something else, or to do this or to do that. I don't want to have to do that. I don't want to have a dog who tries to climb on me every time I sit on the couch, and then I make him go to place, and then he has to stay on place. I want him to just not do that. Yeah. So I'd rather isolate that behavior, don't do that, and then be able to live my life without having to constantly give him reminders throughout the day. Yeah.
And once you set that like expectation, it's not like you're correcting for it for the rest of your life. You can move past those things, and then the correction just doesn't happen. So it's like kinder to get it out of the way and say like, this is what you're not allowed to do. Yes. And I will be holding you accountable. So the dog's like, oh, sweet. Okay. I can avoid the correction altogether. Yes. So I don't believe that like all this like fear mongering, this language. And I think this account really just...
It's like, is it AI? Is it rage bait?
I think it is rage bait.
Like at this point, this can't be a real person. Are you real? If you're real, come on our podcast.
Say, this is Dick. His opinion is that it's okay to shock, pinch, or kick his dog during training. The science says this is the wrong way to train dogs. Don't be a dick.
Oh my gosh.
Who's advocating for kicking your dog in training?
Yeah, like that's what I mean. Like she goes to these extremes. Yeah. There's no nuance to any of it.
If treats are a bribe, isn't pain just a threat? No, because I'm following through with it.
It's not a threat. It's an action.
Yeah. And you could argue, like, she said something like, without correction without harming them. What is a correction without harming them? Like,
what does that mean to her?
Yeah. What does harm mean?
Like physical harm, emotional harm.
Yeah.
Like what does that mean to you?
Because like e-collars, I don't believe e-collars harm dogs. I think
No.
that they are an effective tool to stop a behavior. But your dog is not sitting here like sore and like, oh, my neck burns. It hurts
No.
so bad. It's there and it's gone. And it's designed for that purpose.
Yeah.
So like you could argue, oh, like my dog got really mopey after I corrected them, or they got really fearful. It's like that's the learning process. They have to learn how to avoid the behavior. Mm-hmm. So they have to do it and then get corrected for it.
Yeah. We
and then
don't touch
realize-
fire.
Yeah.
You know why? We've all gotten burned at some point in our life and we're
Yeah.
like, ow, I don't think I want to do that.
Yeah.
But it's not like I go through my life with this like crippling anxiety and fear of the one time that I accidentally touched the stove and I was like, ooh, that was really hot, right? Like it's a momentary thing that you then learn, oh, okay, I should avoid things like that in the future moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think in those moments they try to like really capitalize off of just people's love for their dogs.
An emotional weakness. Oh,
Oh, hello, Nelson. Speaking of,
yes.
come here.
Yeah, it's a lot of weakness. Like you're really conflicted about like setting boundaries, and it's probably in other areas of your life too.
Yeah. Can you make it? Come on.
Go ahead, Kooks.
I believe you.
Go
Go
now.
for it.
Go.
Be brave.
Go now.
Come here. Come on. Come on. Come on. You can do it.
two,
Come on.
three. Oh.
Nelly.
Nelly.
We've lost him. He's gone now.
Nelly.
He's been set free.
Nelly.
Nelly. Nelson. Come here. Come see me. Come here. There you
Not
are.
you. You're kicked out. Bed.
Found him. I found the Chihuahua.
This is Nelson, the dog that made me a balance trainer.
The
'Cause
one
I
you
tried
used to
to watch
take to bars.
Yeah. Tried to watch Zach George videos to retrain him, and it was so fucking hard and convoluted, and it never worked. And then I sprayed a pet corrector at him, and he was like, holy shit. He's like, I'm never going to react again.
And now look at him, the sweetest young man. I know. I love a little Chihuahua. You're the best. Did we ever finish talking about resource guarding?
Oh, I don't think so.
We talked a little bit about it. Like you can use positive reinforcement to create trust and confidence of you approaching the dog. And then you just need to teach verbal communication.
Yeah.
To release something.
Yeah. And then having a good routine, one for you, like having the routine be the same. Okay, it's like Roxy's dinner time.
Yeah.
And I know that she flies off the handle. I'm not going to let the children be running around Roxy when she's eating. I'm going to have the same routine every single day in the same, like it doesn't have to be the same time, but it has to be the same pattern.
Yeah. The
where there's no
procedure has to be the
guessing.
same.
So if you can manage resource guarding exponentially and not have an issue with it, but if you stick your hands in Roxy's bowl, what is
What are
she
you
supposed
doing?
to do?
What are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that there's like different levels to which you can really work on things. So like I would say for a household that is very easily like environmentally predictable. You know what I mean? So it's like one person and their dog, or it's like a married couple and their dog.
Yeah.
No kids running around, no, things like that. Having a feeding procedure for a dog with resource guarding, super easy. You know what I mean? Like we talked about, you go through the same thing. We have a procedure that we basically use with every single dog that has the issue, and it works great. And then I would say, like, from there, sure, you could work on some, like, increasing the tolerance level of dogs as well, to where if I have a client with a dog who maybe they do have, like, teenage kids, or they have, wherever they're going to be feeding the dog, there may be foot traffic, in and out of the kitchen or things like that, whatever. Or if the dog is still kind of volatile with them, you know what I mean? You can do training drills where, like, I'm not going to take this from you directly without giving you a heads up and allowing you to mentally make the choice to disengage from it before that happens. But if I walk behind you and I accidentally like graze you on the tail as I'm walking by, you need to tolerate that. And you can start building up again their tolerance for those things through doing training routines and stuff like that. But yeah, it needs to be something where you're doing it very intentionally. You have it very structured. The rules are very clear for the dog for them to be successful then.
And sometimes it still doesn't work. Like, it's just not a good fit in a household. Like, if you do have children or you have people over all the time and people are petting the dog.
Yeah.
Come on. There you go.
Bridget, wait, you actually train dogs?
Yeah. I train only small dogs.
You don't just sit on the internet and make podcasts and comment on things all day?
No.
You actually are a dog trainer.
Yeah.
You heard
Crazy.
it here, folks.
I heard the most cringy thing the other day from a friend. And, okay, I have to ask you if you guys think this too. But my handle on Instagram is tiny to mighty, meaning like big to small dogs.
Yeah.
I train them all, whatever. And she was like, oh, it's because you're tiny and you're so little and like you train big, mighty dogs. And I was like, I fucking hope that's not what people think. Because I'm just so small, such a small, delicate girl.
I honestly, the way I interpreted it was neither of those.
Okay.
I interpreted it as like you're taking tiny dogs and you're making them mighty. That's what I interpreted it as.
Yeah.
But your intent for it, authorial intent, is important, and I support it.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your meaning behind it. Anybody out there, did you think that her handle was about her being small? Because if you've interacted with her in person, she is quite small.
Yeah, yeah.
You are a small girl.
I am I'm so small. Delicate and soft-spoken.
So I wonder if that was what other people have gotten from it.
Yeah.
That'd be really funny if it was.
I will change
Does that make you want to die?
Yeah. I will change my handle ASAP. Drop some good handles in the comments below. If you think of any.
What do you feel about mine?
I like yours. It's simple.
I don't think it's easy to misinterpret.
No. Please train your dog. You're so polite.
It's really, please.
Please.
That's me being polite. Before then you go on my page and you see all of my rants about everything.
Yeah.
I got to ease them into it.
Well.
Any other closing thoughts?
Dr. Carrie, are you AI?
I don't think she can't be real. That can't be a real person doing
No.
that. It's got to be rage bait.
It is rage bait. And just the infographics, I don't know.
It's too much.
And then there's a lot of posts about autism in dogs, which I'm sure exists, but
It probably, I mean, how would we measure it though?
fire your dog trainer. Last thought here. If he, or they, how modern, use a shock or prong or choke chains. Manage behavior by pinching, kneeing, hitting, forcibly holding, yelling, alpha rolls, collar jerks, promising quick results. Behavior change takes time and effort. Yeah, it does.
It does. We're not arguing that.
All right.
Carrie,
Dr. Carrie Cannon.
I'm exhausted.
Oh.
Is she even a doctor?
She's a professional and certified applied animal behaviorist.
Do you think she just prescribes dogs gabapentin and trazodone all day?
Yep, I do think so.
The combo.
Yep.
The anxiety combo.
And there's so many certifications. Like, I could take a certification online and be like, certified in this specific training program. Like,
Yeah.
what does that mean? What weight does that hold? What does your education look like? How did you study? Do you have hands-on experience?
Yeah. That's like there's a girl on TikTok who's a certified separation anxiety. Have you seen her videos?
Yes.
What does that even mean? Like, you took an online course that gave you their version of how to fix separation anxiety.
Keep them in the crate for 5 minutes and then walk out and slowly increase the time.
Yeah. And then if they panic, you have to start all over again. Immediately let them out if they panic. You have to start all over again. This isn't realistic. People have lives.
Yeah.
I always think about the live Instagram of Jeff Kelman talking to this woman who who commented saying that she adopted a dog who has extreme crate anxiety and he shits and pisses himself every time she puts him in the kennel. But she works full time and she has to kennel him when she leaves because otherwise he's very destructive and all this kind of stuff. And how do I fix this? You know? And he responds and he's like, I mean, yeah, there's like, we have training courses, you know, that you can go through to fix separation anxiety. He said, but honestly, like if you have to work full time, like fixing the separation anxiety will get there. But in between that period of improvement, he's like, throw a tarp down, lock the dog in there and just pray when you're gone at work. And it's like, you can't ask people to derail and uproot their entire routines and lives to accommodate a dog who is struggling emotionally in a kennel.
And then like make it out to be like this whole victim thing and like create a backstory and you have to change your job and where you live and what you do because your dog won't allow you to live the lifestyle that you want to live.
Exactly.
How sad.
That is very sad. But yeah, sometimes you just got to put a dog in a crate. One that is safe and sturdy and you know they're going to be okay in, and then just leave. Yeah. And do the things that you need to do in life and they will be okay. Yeah. They'll survive.
You'll come home eventually.
He's snoring.
Nelly.
He was snoring. The cutest little snores. I'm honored that he is choosing to lay on my lap when you're here.
I know. He likes you.
Anywho.
Thanks
for joining us, guys.
Just another episode with the female dog trainers that just shit on everybody else on the internet.
I think we try to stay in our own lane.
I say, if we're going to say it with our chest. Not be like, what post was that?
Yeah, I mean, we do our best.
We try.
Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. Bye.